Hello, one and all, to one of the shortest tracks on the F1 calendar. 1 minute and 5 second laps abound this track, but when it comes down to it, the A1 ring, the Österreichring, Styrian Grand Prix, it's a track known by many names, but we know it by Spielberg and the Red Bull Ring. My name's Ardu Dragon, joined by Max Ring as well, another one to add to the list. And he's wearing, I think, the Red Bull colours you had on last week.
No, it's not Red Bull colours.
Or is it the place? It's the play seat behind you, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the Red Bull play seat is
there
what's
you
behind
go.
me.
You can see it all blurred out, unfortunately.
Yes.
That would have been a great segue into this. But the Red Bull Ring is our venue for the third round of the BUSR F1 Winter 2025 Championships. And as I said, this is a short and sweet track. This quali is going to be intense, but not only that, but we have a sprint race around this circuit. This is going to be an absolutely intense weekend for everyone involved.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's going to be quite an eventful evening, actually, of course, with that sprint as well. Quali will be super close. Not much time to make up around a circuit like the Red Bull Ring, of course. Not really many corners either for being such a short lap. Only 10 corners, and a few of them are mainly taken at quite high speeds where you only lose about a couple thousandths of a second if you get it slightly wrong. So there's not many opportunities to gain or lose time. The main issue is going to be invalidations and keeping it within track limits. And in the sprint as well, more chances for points, more chances for action. But the thing is as well, if you're someone who potentially could be in the championship battle, do you go aggressive in that sprint, or do you just sit back ever so slightly and just potentially lose a few points in the cars, but make sure you certainly lock them in?
Absolutely. And of course, in terms of locking in points, we have two drivers who are potentially in that championship as we look down the road towards our finale in Baku. Liam and Ben, P4 and P5 in the championship, unfortunately unable to make it tonight. So that is two championship contenders out of contention and will be automatically using their drop round. But as it is, Chrisis Pilakouris is absolutely running away with the championship so far. I did run a few calculations beforehand, and it has only been 6 points that have been dropped from a possible 112. 106 are currently owned by him. Josh Woolley on 70 behind. Last Gen Newt 66. Both of them will be hoping to catch up to someone who's absolutely running rampant. It is not the first time we have seen someone in a Red Bull car run riot in an F1 championship, but maybe it won't be the last if Chris is able to keep this going.
Yeah, it's just about now who can catch Pilakouris. It's not about trying to win the championship itself. It's just trying to catch Tamatin in the lead of it. He's just so dominant so far this season. As you mentioned, only dropping 6 points. That's pretty much unheard of in racing, where, of course, it's such a close grid as well. That's why they've all been put into Lobby 1, and it just shows how fast Pilakouris is, that no matter what, even if he doesn't qualify on pole, or if he just potentially drops a few points thanks to fastest lap, he wins every race to follow that straight back up. And he's just so far clear so far of Josh Woolley that at this rate, is anybody going to be able to catch him? Surely there's going to be a few tracks down the line that maybe don't suit his strengths, maybe a bit on the weaker side. But even then, will he even drop enough points for anyone to catch up?
That is going to be the question, because, of course, being where he is, a drop round hasn't been used. He has not had to sort of go, all right, that race wasn't so good. I'm going to have to leave that one behind. This weekend, as long as he keeps that consistency going, gets maybe a P2, P3 at worst case scenario, that's still not necessarily a drop round. That is still a ton of points being put onto his tally that will keep him ahead, and having two contenders, despite them being another 50 points behind him, in terms of Liam and Ben, those are the guys who've been challenging up front. I believe Liam had a fantastic P2 last week in Mexico, the one that neither of us were able to watch. But P2 up 4 places from where he started on the grid. That's going to be massive. We have Woolley, who's holding P3 down, but still not quite getting up there to try and throw Chris off his game. No one at the moment has challenged him, but perhaps at the home of Red Bull, someone can really challenge the driver leading the Red Bull at the front.
Yeah, maybe they could spoil Red Bull's party. That is going to be the question. Of course, with the sprint as well, it adds a little bit more jeopardy too. Of course, if Pitacoris just unfortunately gets a poor sprint, which could happen, anything can happen. People go a bit more aggressive into those sprints because, of course, only points down to 8th. There's not as many points on the table, and of course, it's a shorter race, so you've got to make those moves a lot earlier on. That's where incidents happen, because somebody just oversteps that mark a little bit more, and that could be something that Pitacoris gets into, and he unfortunately gets into that little bit of a scrape. So it's all about how the drivers manage, of course, the sprint along with the main race as well. Mistakes can be made thanks to there being the sprint as well, because you drive the track so much, you get a little bit of mental fatigue in that feature race, and a mistake just going wide ever so slightly onto the gravel could then see yourself going around. So there's plenty of opportunities for anything to happen to any of the top dogs in this field, and we could potentially get a surprise winner here tonight.
Absolutely. It's been a track in real life that is all about the track limits. It was a talking point in the last couple of years about where you set that white line for the people to follow. And it could be exactly the same here. I think from what we've seen from Chris so far, he's a cool head. He's quite good around qualifying. Of course, he dropped one pole. I think that was one of the set of 2 points that he dropped. He's been running the Inters pole division as it so far, both Inters pole going to him around Mexico and Monza in rounds 2 and 1. Can he do the same in qualifying? Get himself another 2 cheeky points and keep that run going? We'll have to see. But I think in terms of the track itself, it's short, it's sharp. It is going to test these drivers quite a lot to make sure they get their precision right, of being on the line but still being within them. I think the sprint maybe opens the door for experimentation, as you say. It's maybe you sort of start to go, all right, where are you starting to break? Where are you going to turn in for these corners? Get you that little bit of intel. That's going to be important for challenging later on. As now we switch into qualifying mode. A nice sunny day in the Styrian Mountains in Austria to start off round number 3 in BUSR Winter.
Yes, we certainly do. We are here for sprint qualifying. There is going to be 2 qualifying sessions. It'll be a sprint quali followed by a main feature quali, and then we'll be in to the races. So you have all your qualifying first, get them out the way, and then those grids will then, of course, be in action for the sprint and then for the feature race. So here we are in sprint qualifying. This one will just determine how we're lining up for that first race, the shorter race, and we'll see what comes of things as we see El Cone. And I want to say that could potentially be GM heading out onto the circuit. No, it's Dexter Morgan who comes out onto the road. So yeah, going to be interesting for qualifying here. You can get plenty of laps done around this circuit being so short. You can get in and out quite quickly, but only with 10 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock. Of course, in this sprint, and of course being such a short session, will you even be able to do 3 laps, or will you just be cut short at the 2?
We'll have to find out for these drivers as we start things off. Watching Yusuf, I believe one of the drivers that have joined us from the second lobby to fill up a few places, but I think he'll be absolutely loving the idea of taking a few points with him back down into lobby 2. There's seems, if I'm getting this right, 42 points so far. We got Freya Voss as well, with 50 points in lobby 2. Sure, we've got a few more drivers joining us as well, and Dexter Morgan going immediately back into the pits, as I believe this is going to be Jordan Pinnock to start off our laps on the medium tyres. Now, I think you talked about this in previous weeks around Monza. There's some drivers decide to use a tyre that they can throw away after. Maybe this is how we're starting off with the mediums, getting a feel for the track, feel for the time, and getting an understanding in the sprint quali.
Yeah, usually, of course, it's with that intermediates. Of course, they have the interpole, but you kind of use that as a tyre to throw away, and of course, just to make sure everything's working, make sure you get your setup understand the car, understand the track. But El Cone has decided to use the medium compound of tyres, Mr. Jordan Pinnock, as we now head through the left-hander of turn 5 and then heading down the hill, of course. Here in the sprint, you're going to try and get as many runs on the board, and you probably want to save a set of softs for that sprint race. So that could be what Jordan is doing. So he's now heading into the final couple of corners, turn 9, and then into the final corner, down to 5th gear. You then want to bring the power back up, use all the circuit you can. DRS open, the benchmark of this session at 1 minute 4.5, but I'm expecting that to be beaten as this session progresses, as of course the track will get quicker. The drivers will be on that soft compounder tyres, and we do have Youssef up to the line. What can he do? Second fastest, only a 1 minute 5.247, just under a second away from Jordan Pinnock.
Good couple of benchmarks to start off our qualifying, as we do see a Ferrari deciding to face the opposite direction. But here we go. Here's the championship leader as well, running along the medium tyres, as Josh's championship contender immediately into the 1 minute 3s, joined by Luke as well. But here we go. Thunderino, Chrysis, Pilakouris, I should say. I'm almost getting the name right without looking at our championship sheet. What time will be set? 1 minute 3, 1 minute 7. 1 minute 3.7 is the time. Put him into P2 provisionally. And Josh at the moment is challenging to take sprint pole as it stands.
Yes, he certainly does. And I actually made a mistake there. Drivers won't be on the softs for this sprint qualifying session because the game counts it as sprint Q1. So it's only the medium tyres that will be available to the drivers. That's why they're all on the mediums. So Assassin to the line, only a 1 minute 4.7, goes 6th fastest. Jordan Pinnock's back out on the circuit. Freya Foss, she can only go to 10th for 1 minute 6.929. We'll need to find plenty more time if she wants to move herself back up into that top 10, as Luke Sawyer and Seth occupy 3rd and 4th. Seth just popping himself up with a 1 minute 4.1. But of course, with that medium tyre as well here, Dragon, they can maybe use this tyre a little bit more. They can do multiple push laps on it. Yes, they take a slight bit of performance out of it, but it's more durable, and you often, for at least 2 or 3 laps in qualifying, be able to get the maximum amount of it after push lap after push lap, because it is such a durable tyre compared to that soft.
Seems like at the moment people aren't taking the opportunity to go for a second push lap, as GMT UFC deciding to head into the pit lane, as I think maybe Ali might be the only one going for 2 laps at the moment. A warm-up, which was 1 minute 16, has taken 5 seconds off. I think that might be invalidated, as that time has not changed on the ladder. Following a Ferrari round here, CT08 coming up to the first real challenge, the Amzag corner. Quite a tight turnaround here. Need to drop down to the 3rd. The game decides that you need to drop down to 2nd. That's the option, but that looks like a purple sector to start things off. Could we be seeing another 1 minute 3 time start to brew together around turn 4, heading through turn 5 as well? A slower driver on a cool-down lap, but that's the fellow Ferrari trying to slow down and letting C208 go through. There is a Red Bull in front. That could start to help out here. Thunderino might be telling his teammates he's in the pit lane at the moment. Get out the way as soon as you possibly can. C208 rounding the 9th corner in towards the 10th. Has he stayed inside track limits as it goes to the edge of the corner? It's a good lap time, 104.8. I think maybe the purple sector might have tricked me, but in the end, it is going to be P9 for CT08. And Repic also 104 as well, 104.3.
Yeah, nice lap times there from some of these drivers. Of course, that first sector, with it really only being that first corner, if you could just hit it right, you've got plenty of chance to just get that purple first sector for Ed Foss. I think she's coming into pit lane last gen. Newt, of course, the man 3rd in the standing, 66 points compared to Pilakouris' 106. So 40 points behind here of Pilakouris is last gen Newt. But if he could get a good sprint qualifying, that certainly could change his favours into that main sprint race, as we now head up it through the first sector split. 700ths up on his previous best. CT08 is off the road, and going through the escape road is the Scuderia Ferrari driver, currently sitting 10th place, of course. but would love to just find maybe even a tenth of a second to improve themselves up into 8th. Ender Epic, it looks like coming into pit lane. I think that was Sportmad just crossing a line. Yes, it was, going 13th fastest on a 1 minute 5.2. What about Last Gen New? Oh, Last Gen New has invalidated and was up by 0.2 of a second, nearly 3. Potentially could have just seen himself on the front row, but an invalidation has brought that to a halt.
I think just about maybe leapfrogging Seth as he decides to opt into the pit lane. That second row might be beckoning for Last Gen New rather than sitting next to his Warwick friend and colleague Ender Epic, currently in P6 in that Papaya, out qualifying Jordan Pinnock at the moment in the Papaya war going on in BUSR. Only 3 cars out on track at the moment. It's Sportmad trying to pick up a little bit of time, currently in P13. I think that's 3-second difference. He might be opting for the pit lane now as we watch him head towards... Yeah, there we go. On the inside, he'll be heading in to the pit lane. And I think everyone might be just taking a moment to reset. We are entering the last 3 minutes or so, as it looks like it's going to be Dexter Morgan starting what could be the last set of lap for everyone. And what sort of qualifying time will we see from Dexter Morgan? Max, why don't you take us through this lap?
Right then, just heading through Niki Lauda curve there. Nicely done. Keeps it all within track limits. Of course, everybody else will start to trundle out onto the circuit now. But as we head up into the first sector split, he's up by just under 1/10.5. But through turn 2, I think that might have been a bit of lag on Dexter Morgan's end, but was still a big slide, even without going nearly the whole way around. As we now head down into turn 4, the Swash Gold, the 100-meter board has just been broken, but that's where you slam on the anchors, get it down to 3rd gear, then bring the car back out, and then through turn 5. Keep a tight line there because it sets you up nicely for 6, down to 5th gear. Slowly bring that throttle back up and just ease it over to that right-hand side before you flick it in to turn 7. Nearly up by 0.2 of a second is Dexter Morgan. This lap time should put him in front of Freya Voss as we now make our way through turn 9, down to 6th gear, back on the power, a little bit wobbly through there, then into the final corner, down to 4th gear. Not so optimal using all the circuit as he can, but across the line, it's 13th fastest and 0.8 of a second found, but still only a 1 minute 4.9. I think we'll be very disappointed with that lap as everybody else is down onto the circuit and Auditorium is down in that first sector.
It's a little bit crowded coming through Amzag, heading towards Rauch at turn number 5. So we'll see a few of those drivers maybe try to find a little bit of space. Last Gen Newt, the only stake driver out here, which might be quite helpful for this weekend in terms of strategy, as for a lot of these drivers, it is not going to be a packed pit wall of 2 drivers that have to be managed and have to manage their time. For the Williams, Wooly, he's on his own. Thunderino, the championship leader, on his own. Last Gen New on his own. And I think other than and we also have the Alpine and the RB also in a garage by themselves. The rest of them have been paired up with another member of this lobby. So they'll have to have a teammate to watch out for, a teammate to have to make strategy calls with, as Josh, current P1 on pole for the sprint race. Could he set another faster time? I think that was, if my eyes don't deceive me, 1/10 taken off, nearly 2. What time as he comes through? 9 and 10. Wooly over the line in just a second as DRS is passed. That is an immense time. 1.6 hundredths of a tenths of a second there made up. That is a commanding pole position just for the sprint race.
Certainly is, but now all eyes turn to Pilakoris, who's up by 0.5 in that first sector. Ender Epic puts himself up into further, so brilliant lap time there from Jordan Pinnock as we now make our way through turn 6 with Pilakoris. What's this going to be in the middle sector split? Nearly, just over, 3.5 tenths found. Last Gen Newt puts himself into second place by 1,000th of a second, but if Pilakoris can keep this one nice and sweet as Luke Sawyer now goes to the top of the times, here comes Pilakoris. What can he do? Can he snatch it away from Josh Woolley? DRS open. Is it going to be enough? It is! And only just by 300ths of a second. Pilakoris, your championship leader, puts his car on pole position, but still with cars heading around the circuit. We see Dexter Morgan crossing the line in reverse. But for Pinacoris, he had to dig deep, he had to give it his all, and in the dying moments with all that pressure, he brings out the diamonds. And he goes on that pole position spot with Sportmad 10th. And I think that was El Cone going up to 7th. As we see now Freya Voss to the line. She's not improving, unfortunately. What about Ali, who's currently 9th across the line, stays 9th. And that's going to be the end of qualifying. And it's your championship leader on pole position for the sprint with a very, very close margin to Josh Woolley behind.
Wow. That was immense from Thunderino. That, may I remind everyone, that was about a 4/10 gap that had to be made up, and he's just managed to do it with his last attempt. That is absolutely absolute insanity from our championship leader to take that away at the last second. Wow. Okay, so that has set up quite a race in front of us, and it's only going to be the sprint race. We still have the feature to come as well. Whew. What a 2 front rows that is going to be. But of course, that is only the sprint quali done. There is still room for one of these drivers to actually knock Chris's off the top spot. Now they have a benchmark of what they need to do to get on the front row. But now they have the option for soft tires. Okay, so where are we going now? That was just the mediums.
I think actually we're on the softs at the end, to be fair, actually.
Did we have the softs being brought out, or was I crazy? Oh, no, sprint race next.
Oh, no, we do have the sprint.
We have the sprint race, then going into the next quali session. So, straight into things. You have to be able to defend Chris's. You've done the hard work in terms of getting sprint quali. You get to avoid any turn 1 instance unless Josh decides that he needs to get involved going round the outside at the Lauda curve at turn 1. So, well, what's the story of this race going to be? What's the story of the sprint? And who is going to come out on top?
Oh, it's going to be difficult. Of course, plenty of overtaking opportunities for these drivers, especially with that DRS all around the road. I think it really is going to come down to track limits if people can keep it in play for both the sprint and the feature. But that was such a close qualifying. And I actually personally think that Josh Woolley might actually just pip Pinacoris to this one. I think if he plays it smart with a DRS, just chooses his times to go for that move and that battle, potentially every so often look for a lunge, not fully commit to it and fully draw alongside, but just look for a lunge, potentially scare Pinacoris offline slightly, just maybe lose a bit of time. He could certainly, on that final lap, if he's still within that DRS range and tucked right up the back of the Red Bull, be able to get that move done quite nicely.
It's going to be a war on 2 DRS fronts for both those drivers at the front. But I think we're overlooking 2 drivers behind them that are going to be absolutely hungry to move up. Luke Sawyer and Last Gen Newt making massive moves on the final lap. Last Gen Newt getting a little bit of bragging rights over his Warwick rival in terms of Ender Epic. That's going to be hung over Ender Epic's head for a while to come, and he's going to know it. So we're going to have to see what those 2 drivers can do. So hey, let's not rule out a turn 1 instant between the 2 drivers at the front. This is just a sprint race. Maybe they go for something a little bit too experimental, dart around the outside and move and fake out towards the inside as we have 3 red lights, 4, 5. And it's lights out, and away we go for the sprint race, heading down to the Niki Lauda curve where all the drama could commence, but it's going to be an immense start from Thunderino. Gets away, and it's certainly dramatics, but it's in the midfield at the moment. Oh, but I think that might have been lag, making it worse than it possibly was. You had drivers overlapping each other. It looks like everyone's come out of it fine, but I still wonder if there's any damage going on for any of those drivers out the front. I think a slight tap to the outside wheels, and there's the incident I think we were worried about. Sportmad and Weltorium taking each other out at turn number 3. What a start to our laps in the sprint races. All the drivers are pulling out all the stops to try and get ahead, try and get a few points for the championship.
Yeah, they certainly are indeed, as his last gen Newt versus Seth. To the inside goes the Mercedes driver on the kick Sauber. Lovely, well held from last gen Newt, but surely into turn 7, the Mercedes driver is just going to pull clear as he had that inside line, the favourable line, and he certainly did. Disappointing start for both. Jordan Pinnock down into 9th place and last gen Newt down to 5th. As that's a Red Bull off the road. That's Ali going straight on at turn 9. But was lucky to get back on the road just in front of Pinnock as we now make our way up into that first corner now. The McLaren driver will be on the inside line against the Red Bull. Not sure what's going to happen between the pair. It seems that Pinnock's been able to make that move quite nicely, and he's potentially just allowed Assassin to get past Ali. Oh, no, he lagged back up forwards. Ali back up into 6th place. So that going off the road might have just been a bit of lag there.
Might have just been, but it still has to be said. Ender Epic has a poor start to this. From P5, drops down 4 spots down to 9th. Last gen New also making losses, but huge gains out there. Ali up 3 places, Seth up 2, CT08, the Ferrari, leading the way up into P7 from P8. Dexter Morgan up 2 places. It's Sportmad. That is an awful and very unfortunate start. I think might have been the one tangling with Weltorium at the start at turn number 3, leading him down 5 places. But so we are starting to level out a little bit. Wooly has gained a little bit of time heading through the final corner. We'll see to way almost pushing Ali along according to the lag. But here we go. We still have all drivers surviving lap 1 and 2 as we head on to lap 3 as last gen New making a move past Seth to get back up into P4 and start the work to try and chase down the top 3 as they've managed to run away with it. Another overtake on camera, C28 sending Jordan Pinnock wide, but that's being held. And while that war is going on, here comes Ender Epic up into P7 past his teammates, past CT08, and gets the lead. Can he get it to stick? Heading round turn number 5, heading towards turn 6. I think he's had a slight tank slapper there to just knock him a little bit wide, but Jordan Pinnock's still just behind his teammates. They'll swap places, and he's up, and in front is up in the top of the field. Josh Woolley making the move to get up into P1 past Thunderino, who goes a little bit wide there in the last few corners. Move done. Josh Woolley up into P1 very early on in the race.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that's actually a very nice move there from Josh Woolley. Brilliant racing between the pair of them as Youssef now picks up our first 3-second time penalty of the evening, and that overtake has now just allowed Luke Sawyer to get closer to the back of Bidacoris, and we might now see a move be made as CT08, I think, has gone round at the first corner. He has, but for Bidacoris, he's just been able to defend that move from Luke Sawyer. There's CT08 just off at the first corner, but here we are then, DRS open for Thunderino once again behind Josh Woolley, but I think the strategy from the Red Bull now is just going to be sit behind. I think Josh might have went a little bit too early for probably what he would have liked when it comes to that overtaking move, because usually you want to at least leave it to the last couple of laps. Or does he feel confident that over the course of potentially the next 5 to 6 laps he'll be able to break away and build that 1-second margin to the Red Bull behind?
He has got it up to 4/10, but that is already getting broken down as we head to the last 2 corners of the Red Bull ring. He'll maintain the lead going on to another lap, but I think you're right. I think Thunderino is just going to sit here for a while and just wait for the right time, put some pressure on Woolley. It took 3 onto 4 laps for Josh to make the move up into P1. We could be looking at maybe lap 9, lap 10, until we see Thunderino make that move, or he could go early down the inside, makes the move. Can he get it to stick as they're both wheel to wheel heading down into the DRS section? CT08 is retired from the session on the home stretch as Josh Woolley manages to maintain the lead going into turn number 5. Thunderino will just have to wait a little bit longer as caution and yellow flags are going to be out in sector 3. As, again, Luke Sawyer is slowly getting invited back into this race for P1 possibly, as the 2 up front are starting a little bit of a war. As I think they've got 2 drivers going slow at the front of the track, heading down up towards turns 2 and 3, but still the drama is where we settle and stay. Thunderino is back about 6/10, has not had a good final 2 corners, and he's going to be dropping back so far, but like I said, I think he's going to turn that around very quickly as we approach lap 10.
Yeah, I certainly do think so, as we now, of course, with Pidacoris, make our way back up into turn 3. Freya Voss now picks up a 3-second time penalty as Yusuf's able to get by, and so is Freya Voss on Dexter Morgan, who's also had a spin like CT08 at that first corner. And the Haas driver, unfortunately, has dropped to the back of this field. As we see Pidacoris once more just sitting behind. It's all about battery and tyre management now for the Red Bull as Elkone versus Ali rages on, and potentially Jordan Pinnock as well might be joining this little squabble. A big train being now formed behind the Red Bull. You can see all the way down to GMT as we now head through 5 and into 6. Jordan Pinnock just behind, but Ali's got a little bit wide, and that's invited through. Oh, it's all like Ali is really struggling with some internet issues at the moment. And I think, to be fair here, Dragon, that is what's causing this train to potentially bottle up, because they're all too scared to go for a move on the Red Bull in front, because they don't know exactly where he's going to be.
It's certainly being denied some collision dramatics here in this race. We had some organic ones earlier happening at turn number 2, but Ali is... He's pulling the Ethernet plug to have the best defense in the universe right now. I think sure that Fernando Alonso will be appreciating that. Defend like a lion. No, defend like someone who's lagging a little bit at the moment, as there's been a few people not lagging as Ender Epic turns and away. And I think we've got a little bit of damage from some of these drivers around the circuit as Ender Epic has dropped down to P13 after what I think was a turn and a spin and a collision at turn number 3.
Yeah, unfortunate there to see Jordan Pinnock's race go from bad to worse. It was a poor start, and now he's going to be down into 14th place, and it is not going well at all for the McLaren driver. But luckily, it is only the sprint and not the feature. It's Thunderinho, the championship leader, Pidacoris, picks up a 3-second time penalty. This now changes everything for this sprint. And so far, he'll drop down to, I think, 5th place, sorry, at this current rate. And this is opened the door massively for Josh Woody, not only in terms of the race, but in terms of the championship as well.
It might only be the sprint. I mean, we also warned about it in qualifying. And we were thinking about invalidation at the time, but we definitely be worried about it as Seth has made an overtake on Last Gen Newt. Last Gen Newt looking to try and get him back, turning into turn 5. Can he make it stick? He can. Great fight back on the DRS straight to stay in P4. But that, I'll tell you what, that has really helped Thunderinho. These two drivers squabbling a little bit in P4 and 5. And Seth has gone off track into the wall. He's out of the race, trying to catch up with Last Gen Newt. The squabble is over. Last Gen Newt survives the attack, and unfortunately Seth spins out and will be DNF in the sprint race. As these drivers up front, the 3-second time penalty comes into effect for Thunderinho, but he'll at least be able to fend off another place due to a mistake from a Mercedes driver.
He might actually be able to hang on to 3rd place here at this rate. That gap between Luke Sawyer and now Last Gen Newt, 2.8, and a little bit further up is Thunderinho. So at the minute, he's only dropping 1 place. So what we thought could have been potential disaster for Pidacoris, he's still going to get a podium in this sprint at this rate, as Ali once again lagging his way up through the field as Assassin versus Elkone rages on in the background. And they're now side by side, making their way down into the swash gold of turn 4. Of course, that inside line will be the favoured one, having to be later on the brakes, and Elkone does come out on top as Freya Voss and Youssef, the two teammates, both with 3-second time penalties, scrapping away for 10th place in this one. You could just see Ali in the foreground of this picture as well for Elkone, just lagging all over the road, and he will surely, in between this sprint race and quali, just try to sort out these internet issues, because at the moment, I think it really is disrupting some drivers. And it's also disrupting us here in the comments box. We think something happens to the Red Bull, and they just lag straight back up, back through the pecking order.
There's so much excitement getting denied right now in terms of this race. But we have had Seth crash out. We've at least had one DNF that was definitely down to the drivers C2A also out of the sprint race at the moment. It's the two drivers up front fighting for P1. DRS will be for Josh Woolley. He'll manage to get back into P1, but Thunderino will be challenged around the outside. Round through 4, Roush is the opportunity to overtake. And into turn 5, we just have Luke Sawyer, who has the best seat in the house, to see the P1 and 2 in the championship war to take place in front of him. Josh getting through the inside, leaving Thunderino behind for a moment through turn 8, and Luke Sawyer still remains behind Thunderino in P2 after an absolute battle for P1. We are going to end the lap as we started it, with Josh Woolley still in the lead.
Yes, we certainly do, but now this could be another opportunity for Pitacoris Thunderino to get that move back done. Luke Sawyer, of course, will be waiting in the wings for any sort of incident to occur and could potentially see, of course, himself really within contention of this race victory in the sprint. So here we are then, up into turns 3. No move being made there this time around from Pitacoris. Is he focusing on this exit now to get the drive down into the Swash Gold at turn 4, where the Torum has now picked up a 3-second time penalty, but closer and closer comes the Red Bull, but Woody's able to fend him off for now, and Luke Sawyer really is just waiting for something to happen, and I think something big might happen on that final lap of this sprint race, and Sawyer is looking to pick up the pieces.
I think he might be looking for either a through goes Hamilton moment or just settling for P2 in this race. I mean, of course, Chrysis is going to have to take that 3-second time penalty as he comes over the line, so it's going to be very good points for Luke Sawyer either way. If he just waits for either of these drivers to make a mistake, which, let's be honest, it hasn't happened. The only way I see him getting through is a collision right now as we head out onto the final lap. Josh Woolley leading the way. When is Thunderino's move going to come? Is it going to be at the DRS straight coming up, or will it be right now? Yellow flags in Sector 2, where this fight will be approaching very, very quickly. I believe that's Dexter Morgan having another spin as Thunderino has decided to make the move. This will be a stamp on the championship. He might finish P1 on the road, but he will drop down to P3. He'll remain on the sprint race podium as Last Gen Nuke cannot make up 5/10 in time, plus the additional intervals of Josh and Luke Sawyer. He'll run away on this final lap, actually. This might end up being a comfortable win. And what is this going to do to the mentality of the drivers behind him? You might have kept him behind for quite a while, but he was able to overtake on the last lap. You might make up a little bit of time through these final corners. You might get the podium, but the last image of this sprint race is going to be Thunderino crossing the line first. Josh will take the win in the sprint race thanks to the 3-second time penalty. Luke Sawyer, P2, and Thunderino, P3.
What a race that was, and a brilliant ending as well. If only Pitacoris didn't have that 3-second time penalty, but I think Josh Woolley knew he could just play a bit more safe in that battle and just let him through because he would stay within those 3 seconds. But that is a big, big swing now in the championship picture. Of course, Thunderino not winning a race for the first time. Yes, it's only the sprint, but it's his first non-race victory, and it's still a podium to say the least. And for Luke Sawyer, some good points being picked up from himself as well. He currently sat 9th in the championship, and that will take him, I think, up into the top 6. So nicely done there, and a brilliant recovery as well from Jordan Pinnock, who's managed to recover to 10th place in the end of that. And Dexter Morgan will round out your field as he's making his way to the start-finish line. But for Josh Woolley, even though it might be minimal points, it is crucial points to be found against Pitacoris. And the question is, can he repeat that feat after qualifying into that main feature race? That is going to be the question. Of course, the first thing is, it's all about that point for sprint intermediate pole position for these drivers to contend with in that qualifying race. In that qualifying session, should I say.
We head into another one. I mean, the lap times have been set. The benchmarks have been made in terms of the lap times that will get you into the front row, the top 10. For all of these drivers. So we'll be looking at maybe 1-minute 3s, low 1-minute 3s. That is going to be the benchmark for Josh. It's going to be Pitacoris. It's going to be Luke. All those guys will be aiming for those times to challenge for the top order as we look towards the feature race. That is going to be the next challenge for these drivers. And that'll be coming up next as the lobby gets set up.
Yeah, it certainly will be indeed. And I think the real scrap we are going to be seeing is going to be between the likes, potentially Luke Sawyer once again. And as you mentioned, Pidacoris and Woody, they're definitely going to be looking at those low 1 minute frees. Potentially, if someone hooks the lap up enough of those three, a 1 minute 2.9, but I think that one might be a little bit far-fetched, but it can happen. Never say never, as we are now loading into that qualifying session. Unlike the sprint, where it was only 11 minutes, here in short qualifying for the feature race, we have 18 minutes. Well, now 17 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. More time for drivers to get lap times in, and I feel like as well here, Dragon, a little bit less pressure for the drivers to cope with, especially in those first runs.
I think every driver got about 3 laps of full qualifying running in terms of the sprint qualifying earlier. Now we'll be looking at maybe 4 or 5 getting those numbers up. But, it is the standard qualifying that they've been used to at this point in the season. As well, Torium will be starting us up. And there we go. That's more familiar. The soft tyres being brought out as well. Torium, I don't think will be challenging for Inter's pole to start off with, but Last Gen New, Josh, and Sportmad will be starting off the proceedings for Inter's qualifying.
Yeah, it's all now going to be about how these drivers, of course, attack this session. Of course, potentially the drivers a little bit slower might go for just as many soft runs as they can, just to make sure they can maximise their time on the circuit, maximise their grid position. But, of course, the likes of Josh Woolley, Pidacoris, they're going to go for that interpole because, of course, they've got that lap time already. They've had that runs in the sprint. They're used to the circuit. They're used to the qualifying. They can now just go off and do this interpole position. But if you're someone like Willatorum here, who, of course, has struggled so far in the sprint, in the quali and the race for the sprint, you're going to want to maximise your track time on that set of the soft compounded tyres, and that's exactly what they're doing here.
So let's follow them round as the first lap in the real race qualifying. The feature race will be set up for one of these drivers. As we saw, turn 1 not being the place for incidents, it was down towards Amzag. Turn number 3 as well, Torium heads through turn 2 and up towards where this the main instance we had featured in the sprint. Heading down into the second gear, up towards turn 4 and 5. In this DRS section, the home of so many overtakes, where we had the top 2 swap their places so many times to try and get the better of each other. It ended up being Thunderino managing to find their way through into P1 by the end of the sprint. At the moment, well, Torium, not the best of sprint races, but still ended up in a decent position towards the end. Of course, only 16 drivers, some of them joining us from the second lobby. That usually happens during the same time as the main first lobby, the championship lobby, and we'll be starting off with a 1 minute 5.5 from Weltorium on the soft tyres.
Yeah, Ender Epic then beats Ash Jordan Pinnacle on a 1 minute 3.7 already. The first lap or the first laps of the session just coming in now. Here we have Sportmad on the intermediate, so he's gunning for that intermediate pole across the line, a 1 minute 7.8. Of course, the inters are going to be much slower than those softs because, of course, they're a little bit more slidey. Here comes Josh Woody. He now goes to the top of that inters times. He's currently taking home that point. Last Gen New just falls short. What about the likes of Luke Sawyer? Are they on the intermediate compounded tyres? Freya Voss, she's now coming up to the line. DRS open for Freya. What's this going to be? It's second fastest, a 1 minute 5.4, just beating Willatorum. And, of course, will now potentially come into the pit lane and look for another attempt at things. Luke Sawyer and Dexter Morgan alongside Ali all still on their laps. Luke Sawyer is on a set of the intermediates through that middle sector, looking at 46.4, potentially holding up Dexter Morgan there. Maybe some miscommunication, the amount of space needed for the Hash driver to make their way through. As we now head into turn 9, Dexter Morgan's going to dive into the pit lane, and Sawyer, what is this going to be as he makes his way to the line? Can he snatch that into pole away? No, he cannot, because he invalidates the lap, and it would have been a 1 minute 7.0. It would have been Inter's pole. Well, unfortunately, at that final corner, ran a little bit wide, and the Mercedes man has seen that point fade right in front of his fingers.
Inter's pole only up to 12 minutes remaining. So another 1 minute and 10 seconds to go for anyone running in it for Inter's pole. Ali will come through, but that'll be a little bit off the time that Josh Woolley has set at 1 minute 7.1. Second little bit of drama we will have today in terms of points given out, as Thunderino will come across the line to start off his lap for Inter's pole, but perhaps a little bit too late. Only 50 seconds remaining, so I think he might be fine with starting it just before. But let's take a look at the leader in the championship going for Inter's pole, looking to collect another 2 points this weekend after a sprint race that was just ruined by, I think, by a few track limits violations. They gave him a 3-second time penalty as he heads down towards turn 4, looking to try and beat Woolley's time, 1 minute 7.170. To those who want to watch the ladder on the side and start to compare what times will be occurring, a 46 was scored before we had Luke heading over track limits and having his time taken out. So we are well on track for that, as Thunderino will look towards these final 2 corners through Rind, the turn 9 corner, out towards 10. They will head out to the home stretch. 1 minute 7.1 is the time to beat, but Thunderino will manage to settle 1 minute 6.9. Inter's pole goes to the championship leader.
It certainly does, and that's a crucial point now back into his favour, stolen from the man who's second in the standings. Assassin now on his lap of 45.2 in that middle sector as he now makes his way into the final couple of corners. The Alpine, where can they go? Is it going to be enough for at least a front row start at this current moment in time? Across the line, it is good enough for a front row start, but only just a 1 minute 4.923, still 1.2 seconds off. And Epic here as Dexter Morgan is now starting their lap, and the rest of the field either coming into the pit lane or in the pits, as Josh Woolley now coming out for an outlap on those soft compounded tyres. But for Dexter Morgan, we'll see what potentially they can do. And Jordan Pinnock has also started their next attempt at pole position. Could they potentially dive into at least those mid 1 minute frees?
Now Yusuf, one of our Aston Martins for the weekend, currently in P4, 1 minute 4.9. Can he get into the early 1 minute threes? No, I think somewhere along the lines, just had a little bit of a crazy corner, 1 minute 10 over the line. Ali has left the session, so maybe restarting the internet, as Seth, I think, has realized it was a bit late for Inter's pole, diving into the pit lane as well. So those on Inter's will be changing to the soft tires. They'll be looking to set count laps that will really count, as Dexter Morgan through the final corner up towards the start finish line. 1 minute 4.8. That is an excellent lap coming from the Haas, and will join his teammate on the front 2 rows and on the provisional podium, as it were, in the qualifying laps. As Ender Epic, I think, yep, there we go, invalidates on the final corner.
Yeah, unfortunately there for Ender Epic, was down on the lap time anyway, so unfortunately does not improve on that lap time, and we'll have to come back into the pit lane for another fresh set of softs as we now reach the halfway point of this qualifying session. Josh Woolley has just started his lap as he's now making his way through the first sector. It'll be interesting to see what the man currently second in that intermediate field can do on his lap. Dexter Morgan now coming in to pit lane as well. Just set his lap just behind his teammate GM. So at the minute it's a Haas 2-3. But I'm expecting that to change rapidly as the likes of Thunderino, Josh Woolley, Last Gen New and Luke Sawyer set their laps. And look at that, 6 attempts up in the first sector already for Josh as he's now making his way through turn 6. As late on the turning as you can. Bring it all the way out wide, 2.2 seconds up. Of course, that's compared to his intermediate lap. I'm expecting this here, Dragon, to at least be in those mid 1 minute frees. Anything below that, I think certainly at this stage of qualifying would be a plus.
I think he'll be disappointed if it was anything else other than being on the top of the podium. There we go. Provisional pole for Josh Woolley. Last Gen Newt joining his Warwick rival on the podium as well. Just a little bit behind. Ender Epic currently in P2. Luke Sawyer also setting a time, but trailing in P4. Thunderino will be the next person that we probably need to take a look at if he is on the lap at the moment, on this out lap. So this will be coming very, very soon as he heads towards turns 9 and 10. Currently in P11, only because the Inter's pole that he managed to snatch away from Josh Woolley as he rounds the last corner. And Max, take us through the championship leaders lap.
Here we are then with Pirokoris as he now starts his first soft run of this main qualifying session, of course, for the feature race. Through the first corner, down to fourth gear, brings the car out really nicely to hit that apex curb sweetly as well. Turn 2, this little kink left, you want to just keep it all the way up on the curb as you hit the brakes at 100 meters, down to second gear. Clip that inside apex curb, bring the car out wide. Easy to loop the rear on traction as DRS is now open for Thunderino as he makes his way into the swash gold of turn 4. Once again, about 100 meters, get it down to third gear over that inside apex curb ever so slightly, bring it out wide, and again, very easy to loop the rear of the car around. Luke Sawyer into fourth place, but as Thunderino now charges through turn 6, brings it nicely out wide, just easing up to that gravel. Same with turn 7 as well, easy on track limits. Nicely done through there once more as you head into the final 2 corners. The first is going to be partially flat out, just a little lift onto the brakes, potentially a little bit hesitant through there as you head through the final corner, back on the power reserves as you can. DRS open, and it's good enough for pole position, well, provisional pole position, should I say, but still only just less than a tenth separating that top 2, and this time around it is going to be 600ths of a second, so he's doubled that advantage as Thunderino, as El Cone is coming into pit lane himself, who currently sits 6th fastest. I think we've got more drivers now dragging into those 1 minute frees, but at the moment no one seems to be anywhere near challenging the top 2 in the standings.
We do have Seth down, taking a little bit of time off his set at the moment. Of course, he was one of the team drivers going for that Inter's pole, will be his lap time set. For the first one on the softs, that gets him up to P3. Mammoth run from Seth, had that bad crash in, of course, the sprint race, but has really made up for it there to be challenging the top 2. Sportmad as well, putting in an excellent time to get him up into P8, splitting the field in half. Looks like that is going to be a good position for him to be for the race ahead. And the sprint didn't exactly go his way, had a few spins heading around turns number 3, turn 1 as well. I think might have just shaken off those mistakes, learn from them and move forward if you can. Get them out of your head and keep going. That's what I'd have to say as Freyavos. Also making an improvement, will not jump up the standings. They're still saying a better time than the previous one, which is all you can do when, let's be honest, at the top level, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all setting 1 minute threes, as El Cone, Jordan Pinnock will also be in the 1 minute threes. I think not quite improving, but will remain in P7.
Yeah, it remains in 7th fastest as we now see Sportmad elect to come into pit lane. But we are now just seeing these drivers prepare for these final runs of qualifying. And for, of course, El Cone, he'll be heading back into the pit. Same with Freya Foss as well. And it's all just going to boil down to these last few minutes. Currently, it is your championship leader, Pirokoris, who has that advantage over Woolley. But that could easily change, of course. Very difficult to find lap time around Austria to beat your rival. You can find a few hundredths, but that is all you can really do unless you have a monstrous middle sector and the final one as well. You can't really find much in that first sector, can you, Dragon, where it only being one corner and everybody's so tightly congested. But definitely through turns 6, 7, 9, and 10. They're the real hotspots to find the time. And if you just have that little bit of commitment, you can easily find yourself at least half a tenth.
So looking towards our final laps to be set by everyone as we see a Ferrari fly past. I think this is going to be Sportsmad. I thought it was going to be CT08, who currently has not set a valid lap time as it stands. But let's take a step back. Look at the whole qualifying standings for a moment. Thunderino, P1. Josh Woolley, P2. Seth, P3. Ender Epic, P4. Last Gen P5. Luke Sawyer, P6. Jordan Pinnock, P7. Sportmad, P8. Currently looking to improve that time as it stands. GMT-UFC, and Dexter Morgan, the two Hasses, joined at the hip in 9 and 10. Assassin, the only Alpine on the grid in P11. World Touring, the only RB, P12. Two Aston Martins, Yusuf and Freya in 13th, 14th. Ali, the teammate to Chris is at the top of the leaderboard in P15. And CTOA, as said, not set a valid lap time, sits in P16, but I expect he'll be out very soon to make a run at the Spielberg circuit as it stands with these last laps about to start.
Yeah, last lap's about to start now, and Sport Mad is going to get us underway for these final runs of qualifying. Currently on a 1 minute 3.9. Can he find just a tiny bit of time, even a tenth of a second, to at least put himself up into that top 6? Needs to find at least 2 tenths if he wants to get up into the top 5. So as he makes his way now down into that first sector split, he's up by just under a tenth of a second. So an expert first sector from Sportman. I said you can't find much time through that first part of the lap. Sportman has instantly decided to prove me wrong as we now make our way down into the swash gold of turn 4. He'll be down to third gear, over that inside apex curve nicely. Really hooks up that exit well too, as we now make our way through into turn 6. Nicely done through here so far. Make sure you keep it within track limits. And he's up by nearly 2 tenths of a second. A tenth and a half of improvement so far from Sportman. And I said that's exactly what he needs if he wants to find his way into that top 5. And he's doing just that. Now 2 more corners to go. Keep your cool through 9. And as long as you can keep it within play through 10, you're surely going to be finding a heap of time. DRS open. Sportman to the line. Where can he go? It's 4th fastest from the Ferrari driver. Certainly would not have expected that before the start of that run. Very nice indeed. The likes of Last Gen New and Josh Woody also have started their laps. And Dexter Morgan, currently 10th fastest, up by 2 tenths in the first. A little bit wide through 6. And that's unfortunately cost him half a tenth through the middle sector.
You have to be sharp. You have to be consistent around this circuit. We've said it throughout this entire season. Well, for the 2 races and rounds we've been involved in, we know that consistency is going to be the big thing for the rest of this season. And Dexter Morgan putting in some good times here today. Able to improve almost 2 tenths, but can't leapfrog his teammates. As we look for what sort of consistency the rest of the drivers can get in. Josh Woolley leading the way in the sprint races. Last Gen U takes 2 tenths off, managed to leapfrog Sport Mad as it stands, as Josh Woolley going through turn 10. What time can be taken off as he heads towards the start-finish line? And that is almost the 1 minute 2. That will remain mystical. 1 minute 3.1, a benchmark set for the championship leader to try and chase down, as Ender Epic is also improving through turn 10. Goes wide, but still counts as he crosses the line. 3 tenths off. Ender Epic is back onto the provisional qualifying podium in P3. That is a benchmark set for Last Gen New. He'll want to chase down his Warwick colleague as Yusuf unable to improve, as unfortunately that is invalidated due to track limits as qualifying time has ticked down. Who will be sat on provisional pole by the end of these laps? Will it be Chrisis, who hopefully is out on track? No! Invalidated and into the pit lane, so Josh Woolley striking a massive blow in the championship and will take provisional pole. Who will challenge? Who will be able to set a time better than 1 minute 3.1 as Seth spinning into the pit lane? Well recovered. It won't be Seth, but there's still Ender Epic. There's still Last Gen New, as Last Gen New unfortunately out of contention due to mistakes, where Ender Epic through 9 will look to get the time through 10th. Will he be able to snatch pole from Josh Woolley? No. It is time lost. And Jordan Pinnock as well taking time off. But still no one will challenge Josh Woolley. P2 in the championship and P1 around Spielberg.
Yes, lovely stuff there from Josh Woolley. Negating that point that Thunderinho found for the intermediate pole. He's got it straight back for the feature race pole. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting race indeed. Pidakoris wasn't able to keep his lap time valid, and unfortunately that cost him dearly. And we all now boil down to this main race. Of course, plenty to play for. 36 laps of racing action here to come. and it is going to be Josh Woolley who takes that pole position and potentially a huge moment in the championship. Already run that sprint. Can he make it 2 for 2 this evening and win that main race as well?
1-1 between our two championship leaders when it comes to qualifying just today, as they will each take a qualifying win to head on into things. But if you are enjoying the competition between these two guys, well, there's a place that you can go to find your own competitions, and that is Grid Finder. And here's a short video for them. There you go, Grid Finder. If you want to join a competition like BUSR, but maybe not a British student attending one of the universities or an alumni of said universities, then Grid Finder is your place to go to find competitions to join. But heading back to the competition we have at hand here in Austria, it is going to be tight at the top. That qualifying was immense. 2 lap times from the sprint quali. It was immense from Chris's to take that P1 for the sprint race, and now an absolutely insane lap coming in on the soft tires from Josh to take P1 and provisional and pole position for the feature race.
Yeah, it's all going to switch into the favour of Woolley now. And are we going to get what happened in the sprint happen in the feature, where second place is able to pip the leader and take that victory? And that will work exactly into Pilakouras's hand. And this is the one you want to win out of both the sprint and the feature. If you could choose one of them, it would certainly be the feature. More points on offer, and it's just that little bit more bragging rights as well. So yeah, this is going to be interesting on how this race will play out, and it all depends on the weather as well. Will it start raining? Will it start with rain? That is going to be the question. Or will it stay dry for the remainder of things? Strategy is what it will boil down to as well, and it is going to be interesting indeed. If you're going for a dry race, I'm expecting a 2-stop. Tyre wear is quite high around here at Austria, so potentially a medium hard or a medium hard medium. But some drivers, potentially the ones down further back, might stretch it out for that 1 stop. It is possible, but you do need that little bit of luck on your side.
Do you need to make sure the strategy is on point as well? I mean, the last round that both of us were here for, Monza, that was a huge talking point when it came to strategy. We had 2 drivers who we were talking about as being in championship contention get it completely wrong, go for a 2-stop when really everyone else was going for a very risky 1-stop that ended up not quite working out for those 2 guys. I think one of them is not here at the moment, and Ben, who has taken Austria off. But with a 2-stop, it's more set in stone with where they'll go. 5 red lights. And here we go in Austria with Josh Woolley pulling away, but it's a fantastic start from Chris. This will end up taking first, going into the first corner. We allowed a curve, a few dramatics going on with cars going side by side, but everyone survives, everyone escapes, and I think I talked too soon. There's a yellow flag on track. 2 drivers, I think, being taken out in an early collision. Ali and Freya Voss will be down the track as we head towards turn 3, and a few more collisions going on, a few more dramatics. But the top 2 have ended up getting out of it unscathed. Chrisis Thunderino and Josh Woolley leading the way.
Yes, Thunderino has been able to take that race lead away from Woolley straight into turn 1, Elcone versus Sportman, and it seems that the McLaren has come out on top there as he now tries to hunt down the man who finished 3rd in the sprint of Luke Sawyer. Seth with another great start, and Ender Epic this time around from 3rd place on the grid, unlike the sprint, has been able to hang on to things and stay in that top 3 position. So a big change in fortune compared to that first race we had this evening for the McLaren driver. DRS DRS, of course, will be enabled once we cross the line, and that will be now. Wondering what tyres the drivers are on. Mediums for the top two so far. Looking at positions gained, of course, it's one for a majority of this field as they make their way up through the field. Seth, Sportmad, Assassin, GM, CTO8 and Ali all on the hards. Here comes Wooly now to the outside line of Thunderio, not able to get that move done. Seth goes to the inside of Ender Epic, but gets the good old switcheroo, does the McLaren driver, and Ender Epic might see himself through. No, he will not, as last gen Newt is all under pressure from Luke Soy, who dives it to the inside line, but just has to back out of things. Was not close enough to see himself alongside, and it's better to just back out and lose a bit of time than lose your front wing, as we see the possible race strategies of free stop potentially. I'm not expecting anybody to go for that, but for the two stop, definitely the way to go.
I just saw the tiny little soft tyre strategy there. It was like, here's a quick 5 laps. Oh, go on the softs and lose so much time to the rest of the drivers. That is just such a silly strategy to go for a 3-stop when the 2-stop strategy is going to be the default for absolutely everyone. Of course, Ben Mills not here to try and prove otherwise and go for the softs on 5 laps during the race, but here we go. As the drivers are slowly starting to separate out, as you can see the lines of where battles have started to form, as Last Gen U trying to maintain position, but is sent wide in turn 3 and loses a couple positions to both McLarens and a Mercedes. Luke Sawyer up into P4, I should say, and getting the challenge from Ender Epic as he moves down to the outside. Can he maintain position? As also Ender Epic, has to be said, I think it was P3 for a while, has also dropped down due to the challenges of 2 Mercedes flying behind him, as we have a podium made up of 3 teams, 2 Mercedes engine constructors, and of course the Red Bull power unit. And slowly but surely we are starting to come to rest just a little bit, with not too many trains going on as well. Look at the intervals, all under a second between each other. It is only P5 that is starting to have a little bit of distance be made between Luke Sawyer and Ender Epic. His fastest lap is going the way, I think, of Luke Sawyer. His track has gone purple so far as we head towards lap 5 on around Spielberg.
Yeah, driver's now going to dial into a rhythm. And I think Last Gen Newt as well, also when he got pushed a little bit wide at turn 3, I think he just got called out by Ender Epic's braking. He picked up a little bit of right hand side front wing damage. He's missing his front right end plate, and unfortunately for the kick Sauber, that is not going to do him any favours at all. And Seth, to be on those hard tyres as well, up in this 3rd place at the moment, he's doing a magnificent job to keep with that top 2, and it's going to give him a brilliant opportunity come the end of this race if he goes for a potential double medium strategy, or even just a hard medium. It gives him plenty to play for and plenty of opportunities to go for some moves at this stage of the Grand Prix. But of course, with it being such a short lap, not many corners, it is quite easy to be able to follow and stick within that DRS with those 3 consecutive DRS zones. So for Seth, he's doing a magnificent job, but I think his 3rd place might come to an end thanks to his teammate Luke Sawyer, now all over the back of him.
Dexter Morgan picking up the first penalties of this feature race. 3 seconds, currently down in P11, so still just about scoring points as it stands, as CTO8 passing Yusuf down the order, but as we still have focus on how this race up front is starting to form. Can we see a similar strategy as with the sprint race? We had them playing a little bit of P1 checking us down the inside. Seth challenging, will not make it stick. There's Josh Woolley immediately shutting the door on that. Not today. I've got a championship to fight for and a championship leader to try and stay in touch with. As it seems like Ender Epic is starting to lose maybe a little bit of touch, down to a 7/10 gap. Now it's starting to make up, and there it goes, Seth! Another spin, and it's unfortunately caught a few drivers there. That's a bit rough with a 10-second time penalty twice over. It's a safety car being drawn out, and Seth going through turn 10 has put it into a wall and has unfortunately caught a few drivers in contention for good positions. and has just ended up catching them. And Stunderino, I believe, has come. No, that's Ali has come in to change tyres. Of course, Chris is very much past the start-finish straight and past the pit lane entry, who's also taking the opportunity as another Aston Martin, I believe Yusuf, taking the time to put new tyres on, maybe get a front wing replaced. As everyone going round, that is so unfortunate for Seth. A fantastic qualifying, an immense qualifying to get him up the order. Unfortunately, another spin. The curbs have taken yet another life of Seth. And that's so rough to also pick up a 10-second time penalty for being just stranded in the middle of the road. And unfortunately, I think it collected Ender Epic to get that 10-second time penalty.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. Sportmad was just an innocent bystander and picking up that 10-second time penalty. I think that's the issue I feel like with this game's penalty system, is that you could be a complete bystander just driving into a mess. You hit a car and you get a penalty for it when you've not actually done anything wrong. But we do see drivers into the pit lane. I'm surprised we've not seen Josh Woolley and Thunderino into the pits. Oh no,
Yeah,
yes, we have.
yeah,
They have
Chris
come into the pit lane. Chris has certainly come into the pits, but I think
Luke Sawyer
Josh Woolley. Yeah, I think Josh Woolley has stayed out. Thunderino's come in. Luke Sawyer and co have also come in. So the likes of Luke Sawyer, El Cone, GM, Last Gen Newt all into pit lane.
Josh?
Oh.
What?
He's not overtaken. What?
He's been disqualified. I think because of drivers heading into the pit lane, somehow Josh has been disqualified from the race. That is F125 going a little bit mad there with power, as the stewards decide, the in-game stewards decide to disqualify Josh for going past the pit lane while drivers go into the pit lane. So I'm hearing in my ear from the producer there might be a restart being cooked up, which I think is excellent for Seth. It's excellent for guys like C28, who's been punished quite unfairly with, unfortunately, just driving past while not being involved in anything. With a few other drivers also getting 10-second time penalties or taken out by just a small mistake. I think we're going to have to just see how everything pans out to confirm that.
Not seeing any confirmation in the chat just yet, but was that potentially? Of course, I don't think he came into the pit lane. So I don't know what's happened there to Josh Woolley. Did he overtake the safety car?
What I could tell, Thunderino and Luke Sawyer came into the pit lane. Josh just kept on driving. I think not in his strategy, he decided to stay out and stick with the safety car. I don't think he overtook it at any point. And suddenly he's found himself disqualified from the session and pulling up onto the side of the road close to turn 4. What has happened to the game?
Or has, of course, it shouldn't be a thing. But has, of course, as they're coming into pit lane, of course, the pit lane goes from the final corner, the pit entrance, all the way through. And the game's not registered him in the pit lane yet. And he's overtaken them, so it's given him an illegal overtake.
I think that must be what's happened. I think
and then he's been disqualified for that. I'm not too sure. I mean, I've got no word in the Discord just yet of a lobby restart, so I think we're still going ahead. But that is a big moment in the championship, and when potentially some rivals for the title aren't here for Josh Woolley, the likes of Doherty and Ben Mills, they're using their drop rounds. He's going to have to do the exact same at this moment in time.
So Josh confirming that he's been disqualified due to a safety car bug that is in the game. But yeah, there's no word of a restart. Make sure you get that. Make sure that gets asked in chat. Or if this is all going to stand. Nope.
No, it's all going to stand.
It's going to stand, and that is awful. That is absolutely foul luck for the person who's in P2 in the championship and has so far only been in third when it comes to feature races, and has now been taken out of contention due to nothing within his power.
It was It was one driver affected, so no restart. If there was potentially another one, we might have got a restart from it. But it's just how I was mentioning the flaws of this game with Sportmad picking up a 10-second time penalty. We then see, of course, the man second in the standings pick up a unfortunate in-game safety car bug and of course, get disqualified. I'm surprised it just wasn't a 10-second time penalty. It was an instant disqualification. And now we see Thunderinho on those fresh, hard compounded tyres. Everybody except from CTOA and Dexter Morgan have come into pit lane and done their pit stops. So are we going to see now the attack of Thunderinho? And surely, if he's able to get by the Haas quickly and keep the Ferrari at bay, as Dexter Morgan goes now. We are back racing. We go green once again here in, of course, Spielberg. Dexter Morgan actually dives straight into the pit lane. So a peculiar strategy there from the Haas man. But CTOA under all sorts of pressure from Alcone. And we see Alcone make his way through alongside GM as well, as they now try to claw that gap back down to Pillacoris up in front, as that's Ender Epic rounding into the wall.
Ender Epic not out of the race, but that is going to be some huge damage heading out onto the track again, and has survived. Will keep going, and considering how this race has gone so far, how much chaos has happened, I don't think he's really out of points, well, big points paying positions as it stands. As Ali lagging his way past and, well, possibly up into P7. We don't quite know. It goes wide onto the gravel, will drop back down again as well. Torium in that RB is sticking to P7, but as it stands, Thunderinho has run away. Jordan Pinnock in P2. GMT UFC will make up the podium. And Luke Sawyer and Last Gen New, who have both tipped as contenders to keep challenging in this championship, have really just not taken the opportunity as Alcone and GMT UFC have.
Yeah, it certainly is not. As actually is a bit more of a kerfuffle at the back, as Seth has picked up a 3-second time penalty and dropped right to the back of this train. He's really struggling with that final corner, as we see Assassin now to the inside of Youssef for that 11th place. The two Ferrari swap places now. GM all over the back of Alcone. Look at Pillacoris. He's now driving off into the distance. He's going straight over the mountains and straight over the horizons, away from the rest of the field. As Sawyer now to the inside of GM gets that move done quite nicely. He's going to potentially attack the McLaren in front. He is going to look to the inside into the Swash Gold. Late on the brake, locks up the front right. Just not enough power, just not enough braking confidence to be able to get it alongside enough and get the car stopped. As we head through turn 6 now, but he's ahead of one car. He's onto that podium, and surely your bet for second place, if things go to plan. We say that, we saw what happened to Josh, but if things go to plan here, Dragon, is going to be Luke Sawyer, because he just seems to be somewhat on the same level of pace as Thunderinho at the front.
He seems very keen to make this move as quickly as possible. Thunderinho, you can just see him heading up to turn 1. He's already gone off into the sunset. There's not many times in F1 sim racing in BUSR that we have seen someone just run off into the distance and not even be close to anyone else. It's Cameron back in the spring of this year who won all but one race. It was just Baku where he crashed out at turn 1, where he didn't get the race win. And now Luke Sawyer getting past Alcone, but it's still 3 seconds and the same tyre to try and get past Thunderinho. And it might be the same tyre, but he's now used that tyre to battle past 2 or 3 people as it stands. Last Gen New unable to follow him behind, and it's still Alcone, GMT UFC, Last Gen Newt that will make up the rest of your top 5.
Yes, Luke Sawyer now potentially might have just used up a bit of his tyre too much, and that will have that deficit against Thunderinho as we now make our way in, about to start lap 13 of 36. We'll be now heading into the final couple of corners with Last Gen New, who's able to repair that front wing in that pit stop. So it worked out beautifully for him as well. Torium in the space of 2 laps has picked up 2 3-second time penalties. He's up to 6 seconds now as we go late to the brakes with the kick Sauber. Last Gen New will surely be able to try and get this run out of turn 1 and now make his way up into, of course, turn 3 to potentially get this move done later the brakes, but no, not close enough. But with Josh Woolley now being out as well here, of course, Dragon, this now means that Last Gen New, if he scores at least a comfortable result, a decent finish, at least in this top 5 place, so if he finishes where he is now, he will jump up to that second place in the standings, not bring it down the gap to Pillacoris, no, but he will at least jump up to second place, and you would think for the reigning F2 champ, that's not too bad for him.
He has been parading around that F2 champion tag very nicely around the Discord, so for him to be able to get up into quite a big position for him when it comes to the overall championship. I think he finished P3, if I'm remembering the spring standings correctly. Had a good end of the split over there, but to get up to P2, to be continuing to challenge, it's going to be immense for him. But as it stands, Luke Sawyer is slowly but surely dropping back from Thunderino. I think the battles have done the tyres nicely. These hard tyres slowly going to probably die off just a little bit sooner than the ones being held onto by the leader of this race. And just taking another step back as Yusuf challenging Weltorium and getting past. Both of them have time penalties, but Weltorium with 6 seconds of them does have DRS, though. Will hopefully try and hold on to P10. Both side by side, heading into turn 4, into turn 5. Who will get out of this in the right position? It will be Weltorium just ahead of Yusuf, and he'll hold on to P10. My goodness, there are battles going on up and down, but you can see there are 2 distinct trains being formed, and then individual duels for position, going from Thunderino's away, P2 to 5, that's a battle, P6 to P9, that's a battle. You got the duel between P10 and 11, Weltorium and Yusuf, which you just had a peek into. CT08 winning the duel at the moment against Ender Epic to get up to P12, and Freya Voss and Dexter Morgan making up the rest of this list, as Last Gen Newt trying to make a move past GMT UFC. Can he get the hold? As CT08 looks to be using the 10-second time penalty in the pit lane, getting rid of it. It's Last Gen Newt going down the inside. Small collision on the front tyres. Will get through P4 as he goes into turn 4, but better traction for GMT UFC. Will get out and be ahead at turn 5.
Yes, certainly does, and unfortunately there for Last Gen Newt, not able to get that move done, and Yusuf might be able to finally get past the V-Club of Relatorum, but is it going to be enough? Round the outside goes Relatorum, and he's just been able to hold on to that position again, so Yusuf will be getting incredibly frustrated, sitting behind this V-Club, and he's just going to have to sit behind for another lap. A beautiful sweeping move around the outside of turn 6, sorry. Lovely confidence from the man in 10th place. Unfortunately, with those 6 seconds of time penalties, he will drop down if things finish within 3 seconds behind Yusuf, but still putting on a lovely defensive display as we see Last Gen Newt be able to get past GM once again as we make our way up into turn 3. Assassin now all over the back of Sportman as to the inside goes the Alpine. The Ferrari will hang this one around the outside. It's all going to be on the traction now with the DRS open for the pair of them as they now make their way into the swash gold of turn 4. DRS open for the Alpine, not for the Ferraris. He looks to the inside now. Surely, if he's got the overspeed, he'll be able to get this one done. But no, just not close enough to get that move. And we'll have to sit behind through 5 and then into that middle sector. It seems a lot of these drivers here, Dragon, they're able to get that momentum, they're able to get that push. But it just seems the drivers in front just a little bit too good at defending for their liking at the moment, and they're just not able to get that run out of the corner they need.
I think part of it is quick corners, so there's not really a chance to have that overspeed heading into those sections, and the low speed corners just, they're weird low speed corners. It's so tight going up into turn number 3, and of course this turn 1 is also surprisingly tight in terms of getting a good line, as that is a slight touch on the front tyres from Assassin that will drop him down. There you go. That's the margins. I think that's why so many people are so nervous to try and go in for a battle and go in for an overtake, because one little move with the fine margins that we have can send you spinning out, can get you just a little bit caught on the tyres of the driver in front, and you'll lose even more positions than if you were just to try and gain that one.
Yeah, you better play it safe. You got to make sure you get those moves done cleanly, or you could see yourself tumble down the order as we see Yusuf versus Welatorum, and that time Welatorum just goes too deep into turn 4. Hoss on the brakes to try to defend the position, and Yusuf says, thank you very much, I'll get the up and under, and get that move back up into 10th place. And he is finally past that V-carb and will now try and set his sights on Assassin in front as Venatorium goes a little bit wide through turn 8. As Sportman now picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's unfortunate for him in his battle with Seth and Ali, as we now make our way once again through the first couple of corners. Assassin needs to try and make up those lost positions that he had on that previous tour, thanks to that half spin. But here comes Ali now to the inside of Sportmad. Seems to have fixed his Wi-Fi ever so slightly, not lagging anywhere near as much as he once was, but goes deep into turn 2. A good old switchback from Sportmad. Lovely amount of switcheroos here this evening. Just everybody timing their runs to perfectly. As to the inside we see the Ferrari, but Ali is just able to keep in front. And that's 7th place, but goes wide, and that's allowed Sportmad straight back through. And he will be very happy with that overtaking opportunity. That was just gifted to him on a platter.
I think just a little bits of skittering lag from Ali, just getting shifted a little bit left. But it seems like that is a set overtake that has now affected him. Drops him down to P8. As we look at, looking up and down the order again, the trains are starting to disappear, and we are starting to see just set drivers and set positions as Ali looking to try and make a move down into turn 1, trying to get that position back from his driving on track rivals. Can't find himself in the right position to do so, as Assassin will be the one to start chasing him down. Less than a 10th in between the two of them. Round the outside goes Assassin to try and get past the Alpine, trying to get through the RB. The Red Bull will try and stick position in the home Grand Prix. It looks like they're going to be taking away the biggest trophy of today, but will the other Red Bull be able to make up a few positions against its rivals? Sending out wide Assassin, but he's still able to hold on to position. Assassin getting through. Ali down into P9 as the Alpine up into P8. Good battle there. And very respectful 1-2 from all these drivers. There's been some great duels on track, up and down, but just no one catching up to each other, as the closest rivals are the ones we are watching, and Luke Sawyer and Jordan Pinnock for P2 and 3.
Yeah, it very much some nice battles out on to the road, of course, because these drivers seeming to have a lot of racing respect for themselves and for the other drivers, and just having a lot of knowledge to go off that as well. It has got a little bit more overcast here in Spielberg, so potentially some late rain on our hands if we do get some. Of course, 17 laps to go as Luke Sawyer versus Jordan Pinnock now rages on for this second place, in the Grand Prix. Pitacoris has gone. He is over the horizon. He's over the mountain. He's 5 seconds clear. Assassin and Ali still, their battle rages on for that 8th place on the road, and they're trying to hunt down Sportmad as well. Don't forget, all 3 of them interlocked in their massive scrap. But everybody else seeming to be somewhat stretched out. And at the moment, there's only the real 2 battles on the road. The one between Luke Sawyer and Jordan Pinnock, and the one between Sportmad, Assassin and Ali. Everybody else just seeming a little bit too far away from one another. And so far for Luke Sawyer, he's just going to stretch his legs ever so slightly over Pinnock. And the McLaren driver not able to get close enough, but with still one more pit stop on the cards. Still plenty to play for, it's at least between these drivers that are close on the field and doing some close quarters racing.
They were given that first pit stop, but for free, essentially, with the incident with Seth collecting a few drivers. Has really affected this race, with not only the disqualification coming as a byproduct, Ender Epic picking up some damage, so having to drop down the order after, again, another driver having an immense qualifying, but unfortunately unable to convert it due to things almost out of their power with Ender Epic. There's not much you can do. Seth just spinning out middle of the track. Where can you go, really? Just an unfortunate incident. Those 2 drivers, as Jordan Pinnock will be lining up something in the next few laps, I would say. It has to be the next few laps. Try and get it done for the next pit window opens to get back onto the mediums. I wonder who's going to make the move first for this next set of tyres. Of course, Weltorium picking up new tires, new hard tires. That should last you towards the end of the race. 14 laps on hard tires. I reckon you can do it. But I think the next stop for a lot of these drivers is going to be the next set of mediums on the tire racks.
Yeah, I think it certainly is going to be. They're just going to stretch this one out to the medium compound of tyre, as Ender Epic's able to get past Freya Voss for that 12th place now, as of course after his good qualifying, just like the sprint, an incident occurring for an unfortunate spin, and that's dropped him down to 12th place with some damage. And for, of course, Jordan Pinnock, he's still trying to hunt down Luke Sawyer, who's constantly bleeding time to Pitagoras out at the front of the field. That gap now 5 seconds just about by the time they cross the line, as we now start 14 laps to go. It really is becoming grey skies. It's grey skies. Sorry here, Dragon. It has got a lot darker than when we started this race, and it looks like the clouds are going to keep getting darker as we go on. Rain is certainly a contender here in Spielberg. You can never rule it out. High rainfall here in the Styrian Mountains. Could there be some late race drama? And could that cause some potential issues for the drivers at the front?
Oh, that potential for drivers at the back. Yusuf and Dexter Morgan, that's started to become a little bit of a battle. Seth and GMTUFC also battling out as he makes an overtake past GMTUFC. Dexter Morgan getting past Yusuf. There's all sorts of battles all of a sudden coming to the point between sets of drivers, as looks like just ahead, Seth manages to get through one Haas, as Dexter Morgan having luck against an Aston Martin. And that is Ender Epic, unfortunately, having another incident on the track, this time at turn 2. This time, well, maybe it is a bit of a skill issue for him going through that turn 3 section to spin out. I joke about it, but it has been an immensely frustrating day for Ender Epic after, again, I'll say it again, an immense qualifying for him. He pulled out a fantastic lap to get himself into a great position for the race, and it's just not been his day.
No, good over 1 lap pace, but the consistency over the course of a race distance has unfortunately gone from his reach, as last gen Newt's come into pit lane. 10-second time penalty as well for Dexter Morgan, who's also dived into the pits. DRS now open for GM as he's trying to hunt down Seth in front. Is he going to make that move to the inside into turn 4? No, he is not. Just going to sit behind for now. And we'll have to just maybe rethink over the course of these next half a lap for another attack. But yeah, Ender Epic, he does everything right in qualifying, but it just doesn't go his way in the races at all so far this evening. As actually, Jordan Pinnock has dropped that 1 second to Luke Sawyer. And I say that, both him and Pitagoras are into pit lane, surely for a set of the hards. It is for another set of the hard compounded tyres. They'll go to the end. And as Luke Sawyer potentially gearing up for a late medium tyre push, as we say, El Cone also come out of pit lane, as GM also follows them in.
Now I think... Oh no, I missaw. I thought Jordan had selected the medium tyres to try and have a good tyre delta, but have to hold on to them for quite a bit longer. Luke Sawyer and Seth, I wonder what the move is going to be for them, both in the Mercedes garage. So they're going to have to sort of at least discuss with each other in a small way. They're going to have a little bit of fight for who goes in first, but there is a constructors' standings to talk about as well. Unfortunately, it's going to be a bad day for Williams in terms of that championship, but a good one for Red Bull as it stands with, I think you can say, provisional P1 for Thunderino, as last gen Newt making it a provisional P2 as he gets past Jordan Pinnock. But it's only a 1 lap delta between the two of them in terms of the tyres. The only question is, well, I think, there we go, that answers it. Luke Sawyer going for the pit first. Seth also opting for the pit lane. Both Mercedes going for it. It needs to be a good double stop for Seth not to be affected, as Chrysis does move back into P1 with everyone having pitted now.
Yes, and Last Gen Newt is up into third. He's had a brilliant undercut on those hards. Potentially now could be fighting with Luke Sawyer for that second place. So what looked like a destined 5th place finish here for Last Gen Newt has turned into a potential top 2 as we now make our way into turn 3. It'll be DRS Open as we make our way down into the Swash Gold. Will Last Gen Newt be able to get that move done, or is he just going to fall a little bit short? And he does, but that undercut has certainly put himself into contention as we now see the man 3rd place on the road really put himself in a good position for this title as he will score some crucial points over Josh Woody, who of course had that disqualification.
I think Luke Sawyer and Jordan Pinnock are thinking, we had a nice battle earlier. Who's this guy in green getting in front of us and getting in the way of the battle that we were having? But it certainly brought us more entertainment, and those pit stops have definitely caused a few cars to get pushed together. But if someone is not going to be brought back into a fight at the moment, is Chris is pulling out a fastest lap. So could be collecting the winner's trophy and the fastest lap tire by the end of this race. But Last Gen Newt is starting to be dropped by Luke Sawyer, and I don't think Jordan Pinnock's going to be very happy about that situation. He was having a great fight earlier, and now he's being just dropped back by Luke Sawyer, not quite out of the second mark to get away from Last Gen Newt with DRS and make sure he uses this fresh air that he's been dropped in to the best of his abilities. It's Last Gen Newt. I did notice beforehand, Last Gen Newt having excellent fresh air in front of him. And it clearly is absolutely worked as Freyvos picking up a 3-second time penalty in P14.
Yeah, he really has used that fresh air he had on that undercut to good use and moved himself up to that 3rd place. It does seem that Jordan Pinnock has had a little bit of a pace drop over the course of these past few laps. Just not being able to keep up with Last Gen Newt as much as he would have wanted. As DRS, of course, now enabled for these drivers. It's on lap 28 now of 36. Seth versus Assassin into turn 9. That was really close between the pair. Nearly the Alpine into the side of the Mercedes man. But Seth was able to pick that position off and move himself up into 8th. Next on his list will be Sportmad. And actually here, Seth has got onto a set on the medium compounded tyres. So he'll have to do, I think that was 9 laps on this compounded tyre as we now make our way up into turn 3. Assassin just behind in that 9th place for now. But for Seth, brilliantly done to move himself up into 8th. We'll need to try and hunt down Sportmad, but having DRS behind GM and Ali in front is going to make things difficult here for the Mercedes as these guys will be pulling away down every straight.
Seth will have about a 2-second gap he needs to make up, with also having the pressure of Assassin right behind him. Ender Epic slowly making up positions. Needs to have 8 seconds to gain and join the battle between Seth and Assassin as well. Currently in P10, but just getting dropped back a little bit further. Seth holding on to the position as we head out on towards lap 30. Is lap 29 for them. It's going to be Chrysis leading the way on to lap 30 himself. As the Ali in the Red Bull being chased down by a Haas and GMT UFC down towards turn 2, looking towards turn 3. DRS to the advantage of the Haas driver. Sportmad going very forwards towards the inside. Can't line up a move as Ali teleports forward and takes back P5. But this is a nice little battle. I just wish Ali didn't have the lag, so we could really see these two drivers really fight it out without having any sort of asterisks of caveats between the two of them.
Yeah, it's certainly a disappointment with all that lag. It doesn't really help the drivers either, because they don't, of course, they don't have that good render of where the Red Bull driver is, and you can see just lagging that little bit more. I've seen a few complaints in the chat as well from the drivers about Ali's Wi-Fi, and they're just not happy with it because it puts you... Oh, GM going wide and picks up 3-second time penalty. That was a P5 certain for him, now gone. But it just makes you so hesitant to make that move, because you can't make that move. Because you may go up the inside, think you got the move done. Nope, they're straight back in front of you. You just cost yourself valuable tenths of a second. So as you now make our way up into turn 3 once again, Yusuf now making pick up 3 seconds, followed by Woodatorum quite quickly. And GM just still sitting behind, but surely now with that DRS be able to get that move done. Tucked into the slipstream is the Haskar as he looks to the inside, or is it the outside? He'll look to the inside line. Is GM late on the brakes into the right hand, and there's contact between the pair, and he locks the rear brakes. He's been forced wide by the Haas driver, but it's still side by side as they drive all the way up into turn 6. And GM sits behind, taps the back of Ali, gives him a speed boost through the corner. That's booked down Sportmad, and that's Seth now to the inside line of the Ferrari. What a move that would be if he could pull that one off. But no, just has to sit behind, and he remains in 8th place. But for Ali there, locking the rear tyres actually worked into his favour.
Train starting to come together, more people being invited into that fight. Ender Epic needs to just pick up the pace and get involved with it. 11 seconds back now rather than the 8 seconds it was previously. But here is a turn number 3. There is a battle for last Gen Newt to just get ahead and stay ahead of Jordan Pinnock. Both of them side by side, heading towards turn 4 into turn 5. Here we go. Last Gen Newt around the outside. Can he hold position against Jordan Pinnock? No, Jordan on the inside, gets the power down, gets through, and will remain, well, get ahead of the driver who spoiled the little battle he was having with Luke Sawyer. But unfortunately, all that fighting, all that squabbling have just left them behind a little bit further. I think C28 also having maybe a small role with the blue flags within how that battle played out. But I'm sure he tried to make sure he was out of the way of all the drivers involved as Sportmad gets past GMTUFC, the other Ferrari, in a battle themselves and getting ahead to be just behind Seth.
Now with 5 laps to go as well. Not long left in this race, and for a majority of these drivers, Assassin's going to jump all of them up to 5th if he doesn't pick up a 3-second time penalty. But everybody else will be scrapping for position. 6th is the highest they will gain at the moment. But who will get that 6th place? That will be the question. It's a yellow flag at the front of the field. That's an Aston Martin. I think that's for Freya Voss. Unfortunately, she's gone round at the Swash Gold as we now see Assassin looking to the inside of GM. Is he going to get this move done? GM into the back of Sportmad. Seth getting past Ali as well. The Red Bull has finally been overtaken. Actually, no, he has not. He's like straight back in front of Seth, unfortunately, as Assassin now goes around the outside into the Swash Gold, and he gets the move done nicely under braking, and he's up into 8th place. Could he get that 5th place on the road? He would love to get it on the road and make sure he can't lose it due to any penalty removals. But with Ali lagging so much at the front of the field, we saw Seth get by, and then Ali lagged straight back through. It's going to be difficult to make their way past the Red Bull.
But with that train going on, we do take a look up ahead. Elcone, Jordan Pinnock still fighting with last Gen New for what is going to be the last position on the podium. I mean, Chris's Thunderino is gone. Freya Voss, DNF. I think that is going to be the end of their race today. I think they've moved into the pit lane, gotten out of the way of the rest of the drivers to do so. But looking up front, Chris's Thunderino, that is P1. That is locked down. The only thing that's going to take that out is his own issues with the circuit, which have not been a problem today. P1 on track in the sprint race. P1 in sprint qualifying. He's been absolutely fine as the battle continues. Sportmad trying to get past Seth as they really just want to make up a few more points. Sportmad does size not to dive to the inside and lets Seth keep it for a little bit longer. Luke Sawyer will be P2. That is a huge gap being built up between Jordan Pinnock and himself. And last Gen Newt will continue to battle in the last 3 laps. The dying embers of the Spielberg Styrian Austrian Grand Prix. There's so many names this track and race go by. But for these drivers, it is just another chance to gain points on the drivers around them in the championship of BUSR Winter 2025 as we head towards the last 2 laps with a very cloudy outlook.
Certainly does, as Seth all over the back once again of Ali. Thunderino through that middle sector, about to start the final 2 laps in a moment's time. But we now see up into turn 3 and no moves being made just as of yet. And for Assassin, he can just sit here. I say that Seth's got the move done on Ali. Is this finally been able to get that move done and no lag in the process? Yes, he has. There is going to be no lag in the process of that as Ali goes late on the brakes into turn 4, nearly into the back of the Mercedes. But Seth is able to see another day and live on into that 5th place. And now we'll just bring this one home to be in that 6th by the time everybody crosses the line. Thunderini has started the penultimate tour of this circuit, followed by Luke Sawyer. Then it will be Jordan Pinnock and Last Gen Newt in a really intense scrap for that final place on the podium. Who will win out on that one over the course of the final 2 laps? As Seth now makes his way through the final corner, and the kick Sauber and Newt in that DRS. Is he going to go for it now? Onto Jordan Pinnock.
Diving in on turn 3, remains on the inside and does get the move. Just slightly ahead of the apex, slightly ahead with power down in towards the DRS straight, and it is Last Gen Newt with the advantage. An extra few kilometers per hour will get him ahead. Jordan Pinnock, 2 tenths down now, 3 tenths, 4 tenths. Last Gen Newt onto the podium, into P3. But it still looks like it's going to be the same result as Thunderino is on to the final lap, or at least approaching it. The rest of the drivers will have to try and make up time.
Yes, they certainly will, as we now start the final tour of this circuit. Thunderino, your championship leader, is going to take another feature race victory when one of his championship rivals of Josh Woolley gets disqualified, and unfortunately for him, will have to use his drop round up. Thunderino at the front has not had to use his just yet. And for Last Gen Newt, he's now going to be under all sorts of pressure from Jordan Pinnock, because the McLaren will open up that DRS. This battle for 3rd place will go all the way down to the wire, as we're now going to see into turn 3. We're going to go for that move. No, we are not. Jordan Pinnock just sits behind, is focusing on that run out of turn 3 and down this next DRS straight. You can see Last Gen Newt really trying to break the toe, but Pinnock will be getting closer and closer and closer. He's looking to the inside line for the Swash Gold. Is it enough? Both locking the rear tyres. The McLaren still there on the outside line. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? Surely now, as he swooped through turn 5, that momentum will be on his side. But no, Last Gen Newt holds on, and he will hold on all the way to the end, you would think. And going through the final couple of corners now, since Woody retired, this man has well and truly dominated. He makes it 3 for 3. It's Pinnock who wins this Austrian Grand Prix. The sound of music is certainly alive in these Styrian hills, and it's all the music that Pinnock will want to hear, with Sawyer coming in 2nd and Newt just finishing in 3rd. That will move him up to 2nd place in the standings, and it'll be Jordan Pinnock. Then it'll be Assassin, surely, if he's able to hold on to Seth. And here we see CTO8 to the line when a Torin retired near the end there. But for Thunderino, he makes it 3 from 3, and that's exactly how he would love to start the season.
Chaotic penalties will be added on and added up. Who finishes where? Who ends this race where? Plenty of penalties added on. I think we broadcasted that fact to start off this weekend. Start off the qualifying. It was going to be a factor. Unserved penalties for Dexter Morgan as Yusuf will look to cross the line. But wow, absolute chaos has ended this Austrian Grand Prix. Thunderino, what a race. What a weekend. What a time to be top of the championship.
It certainly is, and it's now really just a fact of who can catch this man. And actually, you can see on that Red Bull as well here, Dragon, it did actually start to rain near the end of that one. Just as Pinnock crossed the line, the rain started to pour, but that don't matter, because it's all sunshine and smiles in the mind of the Red Bull man. And he certainly takes a stranglehold on this championship. Will he be able to be stopped? I don't think he will.
I think that might have been the only way someone could rain on his parade, by it actually coming down from the sky itself today. I mean, 3 second time penalty is really the only misstep he had throughout this weekend. The reason he didn't get that P1 during qualifying for the feature race was just an insane lap from Josh Woolley to take away from him. And during the first lap itself, he just took it off him anyway. It's been an immense weekend, an immense set of drives. And Chris will still be far and away on top of the championship.
Yeah, it certainly will indeed. And actually, we have 2 of the top 3 in that interview waiting room. One of them is the man who took the race victory, but I think we should start off with the man who was able to hold on to that third place in the end, last Gen Newt. And we'll make our way through the podium. But hello, Newt, can you hear us?
Hello, I can.
Hello. Well, congratulations on that third place. Just talk us through both the sprint and that feature race. How did everything go for you?
I think it went well. Austria is a track that I'm usually quite bad at, so to get, I don't even know what position I got in the sprint, I can't remember, but I think it was in the top 5, and then to get P3 in the race is way more than I was expecting, but after Josh had his disqualification, I knew that it was a chance for me to capitalise on it, and I managed to. That last lap was the most stressed I've ever been there. I was desperately trying to keep it on the track while it was so slippery, and going side by side with the McLaren, it was just so stressful.
Well, it was a fantastic undercut that even got you into that position. It was, for a while there, for us on the broadcast, it looked like it was going to be Luke and Jordan Pinnock having a fantastic fight for P3 against each other, and possibly P2 as well. But all of a sudden, you crop up with an immense set of laps. Tell us about the strategy. I think it was the second pit stop that really got you into that position. What was the call? I mean, it seemed pretty set that it was going to be medium hard hards for this race.
Yeah, so the safety car complicated things a bit because it was so early, but I had front wing damage from the first few laps, so I pitted under the safety car and changed the front wing, and that's why I ended up like P10. And then I think it was around lap 22 or something that I pitted onto the hards. I basically knew that I wasn't gonna catch them because they were basically being dragged along by DRS. So I decided to go for the undercut, and I just about managed to catch Pinnock when he was coming out of the pits, and then wasn't able to get past Luke. But I think he had more pace today, so I'm quite happy with the P3.
Yeah, of course, we saw that unfortunate disqualification for Josh Woody as well. That I think this result actually puts you to second place in the standings too. So, how does that feel to be the man now leading second in those standings? Does it feel good to get that position away from Josh?
Yeah, I don't know how long I'll keep it for though, because he is definitely faster than I am. But P2 is the best that I can hope for with how quick Chris is. So. Yeah, it's the highest I've ever been in the championship, I think. So it's a good feeling, but I don't know how long I can keep it for. I'll just try to hang on to it for as long as possible, but I'm not expecting to finish there.
Well, you did promise me a lack of DRS trains for me this weekend, so I think you delivered. We saw a few form, but thank you very much for joining us, Newt, and standing by your promise as well.
No problem.
And joining us next, P2 on the road, as well as with the final results, Luke on the podium.
Battery off. I think it's the.
Luke.
Well, I was mid-conversation. I've just been dragged.
Oh, no. So, I mean, you were talking about battery there. So let's talk about sort of the race itself, the battles and everything. You sort of had a little battle for a while, and then towards the end, you just managed to carve out your own gap in P2.
Yeah. I'll be honest, to start with, I did not expect this result whatsoever. I thought this was going to be by far the worst, because I'm usually really bad around Austria.
Newt just said the same thing, so it's both you and him are just confused on the podium at the moment.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know what to say, I'll be honest. No, it was really good. The mediums felt good at the start, and then obviously Seth in front of me spun out of the last corner. After that, when Josh got disqualified, I was fully expecting a lobby restart, given all the incidences and whatnot. But it benefited me as well because of how long the safety car was out. I had wing damage from that crash, so that helped. But then on, just the pace was really good. It was really consistent. The hards felt really good, and even on a really crippled battery, somehow I managed to keep a gap to Cone and Newt the entire time, which I'm honestly amazed.
Yeah, it was actually a very good drive from yourself. Of course, when you saw, of course, Newt with that undercut and get really close to you when you came out of the pit lane, did you think, well, this is at least second place over for now, and I'll lose this position instantly, or did you think you could defend from him?
No, I definitely thought I could defend from him. He kind of caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting him to be so close. But on my end lap, I saw him on the minimap next to Cone, so I was sort of anticipating it. I thought he was going to have me by like turn 4 on my outlap, but as soon as I realised I had a gap, I knew I could maintain it as long as I kept my battery under control, which I did. So.
Disqualification around Monza. Unfortunately, I think you crashed out around there. Mexico, you got P6 today, P2. The rest of the season looks good. You're improving very quickly up the order. So looking towards what we have next week in terms of Imola, going back to Italy, where you had a bit of an issue with Monza. How are you feeling with the rest of the championship to pan out?
Honestly, I think even though the result might not look like it, I think Austria is probably the worst one for me. Pace-wise, not only one lap, but race pace as well. I haven't done Austria as much this game compared to F1 24 and whatnot. I think it's going to be good. I'm hoping it is. Obviously, what happened in Monza wasn't great, but I think it's just down to a bit of a grey area in the rulebook because I was beached on a curb, but I can't complain about it. It's the rules say it, so I'm not going to pout or whatnot. Mexico was good. I feel like I should have been a bit more risky with strategy and gone for the one stop, but I thought because of what happened at Monza with the puncture and all that lot, I thought I'd play it safe, but I'm happy with the result from that anyways. I was not expecting another step up after that. I thought I was going to be like probably around the same position, like P6, 7, something like that. But ayo, I can't complain. I've got a podium, so I've done more than what I ever thought I'd do here. So.
Well, yeah, definitely. You got that podium now under your arms and in the wraps. But of course, we head to Imola next time out. How are you feeling around there? You think you can potentially challenge Pitacoris for that race win?
Against Chris and Josh at their current pace, no way, because then they are aliens. But Imola, I think, is going to be a decent one for me. I do really like Imola. It's a really fun track, especially now with the new scan and they've flattened all the curves. It is really, really fun. So hopefully I do a better Italian job that time to what I did to Monza.
Well, at least you won't be driving a Mini around the circuit. So thank you very much for joining us, Luke.
No worries.
Pleasure to have you, and congrats on P2.
Thank you very much. Take care.
As he can go back to his conversation that we took him away from, and we get to talk to P1, the man who's taken 3 feature races in a row, Mr. Pitacoris. Wow. You just ran off into the sunset. You just had a lovely time in the Styrian Mountains there.
Yeah, it was not a bad time. Had way worse, so well, it was a bit boring, but all around was pretty chill.
I'm expecting you to say simply lovely on something along those lines, considering another Red Bull driver has had this sort of season as well, with so many wins to your name. So rest of the season, I'll get this out of the way early. Sorry, Max, I'm taking away a low ball question. Rest of the season, 8 for 8. How are you feeling?
8 for 8. You know what? The final tracks are like one of my favorites. So honestly, getting 3 out of 3 was not on my bingo card at the beginning. So, I mean, why not? Who knows? I don't think so. Realistically, like Josh got screwed over today. He was pretty quick. Obviously, it would have been a fight with him, so it would have been easy. But I guess, I don't know. I'm lucky you gotta be there to win it. I don't know what to say. I mean, I heard like a safety car glitch happened or something. So yeah, it was kind of annoying as well because we had a good battle until then. We also had a good battle in the sprint. But yeah, I mean, yeah, great start, I guess, season 3 out of 3. So I don't know. The bar is a bit too high now if you guys want me to go 8 for 8.
Got to set that bar high for you. We've got to set it high. You've already done 3 for 3. You might as well try. Go for that 100% completion. But yeah, it was just a really good race from yourself, Chris's. But just talk us through once that safety car restart happened, you built the gap. Was it round about lap 20, just before the pit stop? Just bring it home and just make sure you don't pick up a penalty?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because the game said that it would rain like an hour into the race, but the engineer was already saying that it's gonna be 10 minutes, like from lap 18. So I was considering maybe staying out in case there was inters, but my tires were already on 70%, so I just had to box for hards, and thankfully Luke also boxed, so he didn't do anything different. And the final stint, I tried to go for a fastest lap glory round there. I did get the fastest lap, but then I was just controlling the gap, and those final 3 laps were a bit tricky in the rain, but yeah, it was pretty calm all around.
And Imola next week, you've said that the rest of the races during the rest of the championship, you're quite happy to go and just continue to pick up points. What are you feeling in terms of your closest competitors? Do you think they're going to get you around Imola?
Yeah. I mean, I can't say no with confidence, can I? Even though the standing says otherwise. But Imola is not actually one of those tracks I was referring to. I was more leaning towards Las Vegas, Singapore, and Baku. So for those tracks, I definitely want to go for P1. Not that I don't want to for Imola and Silverstone, but those are the tracks where like I know I can like get the win if I just be on my A game. But yeah, I'll try it for the win again in Imola and make it 4 out of 4. But I would be happy with a podium there as well. Mainly keep it clean and maintain this gap that I've got.
Yeah, well, it was a superb drive from yourself this evening, Chris. Congratulations on that P1. And yeah, go and enjoy the rest of your evening and celebrate your 3rd victory on the bounce.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Likewise. Let's celebrate the Halloween and everything.
Well, it certainly wasn't a horrific weekend for him. He had a fantastic time during this sort of Halloween celebration on November the 1st. But as we looked ahead, we've already hyped it up a little bit. Imola up next in terms of the races next week. It is just going to be a feature race. No sprint required for any of these drivers. So Josh Woolley technically still could be the only one to beat him in a race this season until next week at Imola. So there it is. The Styrian/Austrian Grand Prix wrapped up for BUSR Winter 2025. Max, any final thoughts as we head towards Italy once more?
It should be another amazing race. Not many overtaking opportunities, but rain could potentially be on the cards once again. Very much a circuit where rain can play a factor. And I think it's all going to come down to strategy. That one is certainly a lot more on the strategy and track limits, not so much about the overtaking on track, because of course you mainly only have 1 or 2 overtaking opportunities into Tamburello, into the Ravazzas, and potentially Tosa as well if you can get a good run out of Villeneuve. But still, plenty to play for, not only in the championship, but in the course of these races. And the question is, can Pilakoris make it 4 from 4?
You'll find out next week. Thanks for joining us. See you then.
And no moment in history where I could stand and say, arithmetic begins here, now.